Hey guys, welcome to the Copynomics podcast. Today I have Kim Ward, and I'm really excited to do this podcast, this episode, because I've been following you for quite a while. And I don't know, when you first see somebody, you kind of don't really pay them attention, and then when you do, you pay them a lot of attention. That's what happened here. so,
I love it.
so I like reading your emails, and I'm gonna get into that in a minute. But before we get started, I want to learn about you and like, what did you do before you got started in marketing?
Yeah, sweet. So I'm Kim Ward. Thank you for that. It's such an honor to be here with you, Cody. I mean that. I was actually a clinical lab manager. So sounds boring. I was a phlebotomist. So I started out as a vampire drawing blood. And I'm super competitive, had a healthy ego, also had a chip on my shoulder. So I made sure to just show up, do my job, march to the beat of the corporate drum. And it took me places. And I ended up becoming the youngest clinical manager by the age of 24. I was managing 4 different states in the New England business unit, and I was miserable, absolutely miserable. A lot of red tape in the corporate world. I was a young mom, so I was always the parent to drop my kids off before school, paying for before school programs, getting to work, working 8 to 10 hours a day. And then I was always that last parent picking my kids up. And there were days, I kid you not, I get to the daycare, it's like pitch black. The only lights are the street lights or the parking lot lights. And the daycare workers outside sitting on the steps with my kids because they were closed. And, they charged $1 per minute back then. So I was like, oh, there's got to be a better way. There has to be. So here we are today.
Yeah, I totally understand that because I have kids, and actually one of my youngest, she had when she was a week old when she had her first heart surgery,
Wow.
and she had 2 open heart surgeries, and she's had like 10 not open heart surgeries. So my wife had to take her like a whole bunch of places, and when you can't do nothing about it, you just like it gets to you.
I can't imagine. How is she today?
Oh, she's really good. You can't tell that she's ever had a heart surgery, and except for the scar, but she runs around just like any other kid. She's like the sweetest little kid.
They're so resilient, aren't they? That's awesome. I'm
Yeah.
happy to hear that.
Well, being in that situation, it makes you realize the stuff that you cry about. It don't matter.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. So she runs around everything. She's gonna have to keep doing it, like getting the. Basically, what they do is they put a balloon in it, and kind of like people have a stent.
Mm-hmm.
Well, she'll outgrow a stent, but we won't because we're not gonna grow anymore. So they put a balloon in it, but until she gets done growing, they're gonna have to keep doing that every couple of years.
Wow. Wow. So that's time, that's money, that's emotion, that's a whole lot of stuff.
So yeah, we spent a lot of time up there. I live about 3 hours from Duke, and we spent a lot of time up there. But we had the best doctors and all that stuff, and the best family care and everything.
I'm so glad to hear that. Wow. Wow.
But the reason for me telling you that is because when you're sitting there, your kid is sitting there waiting under a stoplight or the street light. It really gets to you that you want to do something different.
Yeah.
So that's how I feel when I got started.
Absolutely. A lot of times we don't know what we don't know. So it's like, what can I do?
Mhm.
So you just strive to do the best in your environment that you're in. And the world's changed, digital era has changed, and the landscape of how we do business has changed. And I think we're very, very blessed and fortunate this day and age, because if you have those situations where you're either looking for a way out or something additional, I think it's a little bit easier in today's, market than it was back then.
Yeah, and it's not easy, but it's definitely easier than it's ever been.
Yeah.
I read
Right.
Hey Samji put that up the other day. I'm like, that's exactly.
Yes, it's not easy. That's right. But it is easier. That's a good way to put it.
I remember when I first got started, before I even had kids, and back then, I hit the leaderboards in MLSP a couple of times, and it's just something I could do, but it really didn't. Like I didn't have a reason to be making money. You know what I mean? Something to any kind of goals, and back then it was kind of hard, and it's not like it was today, but back then we could also kind of game the system, but they would figure it out and we can't game the system anymore. Now, if we do it right, it's easier than it ever has been before.
That is so right. I gotta tell you. So I'm in a contest right now, literally this week.
I mean,
And I'm playing with some big names, man, like some really big names. And the last update we got, I was in 4th place. I'm sitting strong in 4th, and I'm playing with these whales. And I'm telling my husband, I'm like, oh, I'm super competitive. And he's like, so, put Adriana's name and put my name and put my email and put your dad's email. I was like, no, I'm not cheating, because that doesn't help me long term. You're looking for that organic growth and that organic traction. So gaming the system, you're not going to get anything out of it,
Yeah, it's funny. I saw you on the leaderboard because I'm in Mark's mastermind.
Yes.
So it's funny because right before we got on this call, he said we're not having a call tonight because of the challenge started today, and I didn't really do so good in the challenge, but I started with a no list, so I just basically ran a Facebook ad to it, and so I'm starting to build my list up now.
Good for you.
Because I do copywriting work, but then I also have to do copywriting work for myself,
Yes.
and then but I told him right before, I said that works out pretty good because I finally got an interview lined up with Kim, and I had like 6 or 7 Skype messages before this. I'm like, I can't really do that, I got to do this.
Aw, thank you for having me out. That's a
Yeah,
blessing.
thanks for coming. And it's funny because it's kind of hard to get people on here, but then when you see leaders, the leaders they love coming on these things.
Yeah.
But people that are not leaders, they don't have time for it.
Isn't that interesting? It shows you that they're still working from a place of, I'm not sure what, but if you're a leader and you have that servant heart and you're here to serve and you're here to help, we grow by growing together, So when you first asked me, I was like, of course. There was not even a second. Yeah, it took us a little bit to get our calendars lined up and get the communication going, but it wasn't even a second thought.
Mm-hmm. And it's crazy to me because, and like people, like other people that you would never hear of, I'm just trying to line up interviews because I like to do one a week, and for a little bit I was doing one a week, and then people like, nah, I can't do it. They don't have nothing to do, but they can't do this.
Oh, yeah, I'll hook you up with some people.
Oh, cool, that sounds good.
Cool.
So what I really want to talk about is the reason started following you is because I started getting your emails. I don't remember how I got on your list, if it was an ad or what it was, but one day I opened up your email, and I kind of I made it up myself. I call it rabbit hole marketing. When when you finally find somebody and you pay attention to them and you just like want to learn about everything they do, because I know you have a farm, right?
Yeah.
And didn't you have to take a goat to the hospital?
Well, I took him to get his nuts cut off.
That's when I started following it, because you said you had to take him to the doctor, and then he was home, and it's kind of like when you remember the show Lost.
Mm-hmm.
I used to watch Lost, and then next week you watch it again, but you always left on a cliffhanger. That's kind of what it feels like to me. You're always,
Oh my God.
like, I want to know how this goat is doing.
I just think it's so fascinating that I'm that person for somebody, because I used to scroll on Shailene Johnson.
Yeah.
She had her husband's dad, I forget his name now, Bob. And I'd be like, what's happening with Bob? What's happening next? I think it's amazing.
And so, but when people learn how to do that in marketing, like Ben Settle and Frank Kern, that's who I know that do it really good. And so I followed them. I just like opened every one of the emails. I know they're selling something to me every time, but I'll click it every time. And especially with Frank Kern, I always end up, a lot of times I buy something, but because he's just good at it.
I love it.
But oh yeah, so can you kind of talk about email, like how do you structure those, and like with your marketing and stuff?
So it's funny because I learned over time to really share authentically and just be super transparent. And I was literally just talking to my husband about that. I was on a call right before our session here, and I walked out, and he's like, if you ever heard yourself, you'd never sleep, because you'd be like motivated like a beast. He's like, that was a pretty cool call. And I thought to myself, and I actually said to him, I have to be transparent. I have to be vulnerable. It's the only way that I know how to be. And so when I sit down to write my emails, I want to bring my reader on a journey, and just what happened with the goats, and like let you in and say, look, this is what's going on today. And I really write as if I'm writing to a pen pal. Hey, here's what's going on. Here's what I'm doing. And then very conversationally, I'll make the invite or ask for the sale. Because you're on my list, there'll be some times where I'm just like straight up to the point. That's when I'm in a rush and I got no time, but I got to get it out there. But otherwise, I want to take you on a story. I want to take you on a journey and let you in, because I think that's what really builds rapport. And whatever it was for you, if it was the goats or, just something different for everyone, that brings them down that rabbit hole to say, hey, I didn't know who this girl was 2 weeks ago. Now I'm a freaking fan,
Yeah. So, and then I saw I was on your list, but then I looked on the LSP leaderboard, like you're there, and on this launch, you're there.
Mm-hmm.
I figured what caught me probably caught everybody else just on the lead, got you on the leaderboard.
Yes.
So I think it's pretty cool.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. But
it's been a lot of years, a lot of work.
Well, so what do you think about? Have you tried AI marketing, like using AI?
I have. I use AI to help me with my blog articles because I just don't have a lot of time. It's caught like wildfire. It's crazy. I never thought that it would catch on the way that it has. And so what I got into the habit of doing is taking what I want to say from my heart and just kind of spitting it into the AI software and say, how can you word this differently? How can you say this better? I think that we still need that skill. You're a copywriter, like you don't want to be replaced by AI. Right. You need to know how to talk to people. You need to know the psychology behind the conversation and what you're doing. AI is great, but we're teaching ourselves to be dumb and dependent.
Totally agree.
Not dumb independent, dumb and dependent. Like we have to know how to think for ourselves. And if we keep diluting our process, so honestly, to answer your question, it's a blessing and a curse.
Yeah. And I know, copywriters seem to hate it, and I actually love it because what I want to do is I made a blog, and I haven't posted any content on it yet, but I want to make like a widget where you could take, like, say you have like 5 or 6 different, let's just say, emails. You could put them in there, and it'll learn the style of email you want to use, and you can use that to generate your own kind of hooks and everything.
That's awesome. That's a time saver for sure.
Yeah, but I also don't want people to become dependent on it, because one thing is, since we were talking about the goat, it can't create stories, it can't create conflict. Yeah. Every good story has a conflict, and I got it. I was just messing around with it. I said, write me a story about an intergalactic race war between 5 planets fighting over a single planet, and it did, but. And every time I tried to write a story, it wouldn't create conflict. It would, at the end, they all started working together and use the same planet, which is pretty cool. But if you wanted to use it in marketing, you don't have the conflict.
Interesting.
If you wanted to do like different, like a series of books, there's only one book there because there's no conflict to leave you with that cliffhanger.
Interesting.
So, but my point is, if you become dependent on it, it's not going to work as good.
Mm-hmm. That's an interesting perspective. I would have never thought or realized that.
Yeah.
That's a good perspective.
I like to think about stuff. It's funny because, like, I'll be talking like I'll be in a shower or something. And I won't be talking, but I'll be talking in my head, but my mouth is, and my wife, she's like, what are you talking about now? And I do it all the time. And I'm just act like I'm talking to people, because you know how, like, when you get it out of you, you figure out what you actually
want. Yep. But that's why I someone used to tell me, like, when you talk out loud, you hear it differently because you can hear it with your own 2 ears, and it really, really does make a difference. And you're not crazy. I think a lot of us talk to ourselves.
So, and especially like if you do videos or write blog posts or emails or anything, when you get it out of your own head, you figure out like, oh, I didn't know I knew that, you know?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So I do like using AI to more like a personal assistant than anything.
That's the truth. That's a good way to look at it.
So do you have,
Especially if you're writing like a sales funnel or something like that. Like, you know, that copy has to be super strong. And if you know what you want to say, you can take that, throw it through the AI and just see if it can improve that content a little bit. So that's a good way to look at it.
yeah, I was listening to some, I can't remember who it was. Um, but anyway, he sold like survival kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
After one of the hurricanes in Florida, there was a woman that was on TV, and she was talking about how she lost her home and she didn't know what she was going to do because she had no food, no water, anything. So, but he was selling like the survival food buckets.
Mm-hmm.
He was selling them and a whole bunch of other stuff. So he took her story off of TV and used it as a story for the ad. If you're using AI, you would never know about a story, and people would never like make that connection that I need that because of this.
Wow. That's wild.
Yeah, so
I want to know the rest of that story.
I don't know the rest of the story because I just did an interview with him talking about it, but I'm like, that makes perfect sense. And it had nothing to do with AI, but when I thought about AI, I thought about that story.
I'm going to put a happy ending for her in my head.
Yeah, well, I'm sure she's doing good now because if she wouldn't, he probably wouldn't have made a story.
Good.
That's the way I just kind of think about it.
Good.
So do you have any marketing books or any kind of books in general that you recommend?
Oh my God, I have so many. I think my favorite book is probably one of the most boring books, but once you get through it, you're like, damn, there were so many lessons in there. It's Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill. And it's because as a marketer, as an entrepreneur, you know, we're trying to do the thing and we get into our own head, and that keeps us frozen. It keeps us stuck. It keeps us from showing up in such powerful ways, consistent ways, authentic ways. And in this book, Napoleon Hill claims that he interviews the devil. And like I said, you got to get through the first part of it because it's boring. But once you do, and you learn that the devil himself says, I'm not going to come to you and wave a big flag in your face and be like, hey, Cody, I'm the one messing with your technology and not giving you guests that show up and all that stuff. He says, I'm going to show up as your own thoughts. And so that really, really sat with me and made me think, like, the next time I have a limiting belief or why I tell myself I can't do this video or I can't do this podcast or I can't write this email, I'm like, oh, hell no. That enemy is not creeping in today. He's trying to keep me stuck. He's trying to keep me small and powerless. And that's what keeps me pushing through and super motivated and productive. The book that I just started reading is The Atomic Habit.
Mm-hmm.
So good. And then I think my third favorite is The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy. And that kind of just shows us, like, you doing the thing, you're going to reap the rewards. And a couple of things he brought up in that book is, number one, like, don't have that microwave mentality. Most of us, we think that this was me when I first started back in 2015. I was like, I'm just typing, I'm putting my product all over Facebook, and I'm like, it's me. How come people aren't buying? How come they're not this? How come they're not that? I had that instant gratification mentality. And the funny thing is, it took me 4 months of literally crickets and cobwebs in my business for me to be like, what is going on? What am I doing wrong? And I read that book and I'm like, you stupid ass, you have that microwave mentality. You have an instant gratification mentality. Let me go find a mentor or a coach that can help me see those blind spots in myself and help me kind of get unstuck. And I did. And the sky it's been a crazy wild ride ever since.
I was told by somebody, I can't remember who this was either, but that the results of the work you're doing now is 90 days away from now.
Yes.
So
Yes.
and so if you do a week's worth of work and you quit, you'll never see the results.
Amen to that. You know, you have this is what I call like invisible results.
Yep.
And I'm sure I've heard it somewhere. I didn't create this myself. I'm not that smart, but someone said, like, if you're going to plant a garden, right? Like, you're planting seeds in the garden. Are you going to go to that garden and that soil and like scoop up those seeds every day just to see if they're growing. Like, you wouldn't do something like that. But in our business, we're not patient. We're not patient enough to wait for those invisible results to compound and to catch up to us. And I've had so many coaches and mentors say, if you're not happy with your results, look back 90 days and see, what was your efforts? What were you doing? And more times than not, you're going to say, oh, damn.
Yeah. And one way also to kind of figure out exactly what you're talking about is if you write down everything you do. It's boring, but write down everything you do during the day.
Yep.
And when you look back, you'll see all these gaps that you have that you didn't do anything. And
That's right.
and I call it just filling in my content gaps.
That's so crazy that you say that, because you mentioned MLSP earlier, and I started coaching with them back in, I think, like 2016. And my coach at the time, she gave me this piece of paper, and it was my entire day laid out in 15-minute blocks. And she's like, I want you to write down everything you're doing in 15-minute blocks. And I sat there, Cody, and I was like, is this chick shitting me? Like, I'm not going to do this. This is a waste of my time. This is so stupid. And I thought, if I have to show up to this next meeting and say I didn't do that, I'm disappointing her.
I don't know.
Pretty quickly after looking at those results. It wasn't pretty.
My internet froze for a second.
Was I talking to myself?
I don't know what you said.
I'm not repeating it. It was good stuff. Just know that.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. No, I was just talking about the 15-minute blocks of time.
Uh-huh.
I was like, I'm not doing that. But when I did, that's when I saw how much I was stuck in that rabbit hole or that scroll hole of social media. And I was doing busy work, not productive work. And I whipped my butt into gear pretty quickly after seeing those, what you said, like, write it down, look at it. And where are you spending your time? What are you doing? It was humiliating.
Yeah. And when she asked, like, what are your results? And you say this, and she can say, show me that paper. I can show you why.
Yes. She didn't have to. It was humble pie right there.
But on Outwitting the Devil, have you ever listened to that book?
No.
Oh, there's a free copy on YouTube, and you start at chapter 3 because that's where you talk about the first part is born. But it sounds like if you're sitting there, if you're listening to it, it sounds like he's really talking to the devil, because the devil's voice is like a devilish kind of voice.
Oh boy.
It's really creepy because it sounds like something the devil would say. And
I don't know if I could handle that, man.
it's really good. If you're sitting there, I'll just listen to it when I'm at work. I work by myself, so I have a lot of time to listen to stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I listen to podcasts like just all day, like 8 hours a day. And but that book is like, as I was listening to it, the hairs kind of stand up on your head.
Yes.
Like that.
That's crazy.
But when you talk about the devil, don't come raise his flag and show you, hey, I'm here.
Mm-hmm.
There's a book by Ben Settle. I don't know if you ever heard of it. It's called Enoch Wars.
Mm-mm.
Oh, if you're into like if you read the Bible and stuff,
Yeah.
then it's like that book is going to be like really crazy, because it's got the book of Enoch. It's got all the Nephilim or whatever you call them.
Yeah.
Well, that whole book, each chapter is about a different one. Like there's a vampire, there's zombies, there's
Enoch Rules, is that the name of it?
Enoch Wars.
Wars. I'm gonna have to check that out.
Yeah, it's by Ben Settle. I think there's like 7 books.
Okay.
But anyway, in the book, in one part, the devil, he says, he's talking to the main character of the story. He says, I can't take your soul. Your soul's not mine to give. Your soul belongs to God. All I could do is get your obedience. That's it.
Wow.
And I'm thinking about it, I'm like, that's true. He can get you to obey him without actually taking your soul, but you think he's doing, he does everything for you. And it's kind of like the same thing. I'm not going to raise my flag.
That's crazy.
Oh.
Now I have to read it.
It's really good. Like when I first, I don't really read books like that. And a lot of times when I read books, I read like 2 or 3 pages and I get bored. And so that's why I listened to them. But I just couldn't put that book down.
That's awesome. I'm so glad you recommended that. Thank you. I'm going to read it.
You're welcome.
Yes.
So, all right. So now that you've got over the rut,
Yeah.
you're doing good in your business. Where do you see yourself in the next 3 years?
That's such a great question. You know, I want to go big, and I'm not sure how to articulate that yet. This has been turning into 2023 has been, I think it feels like we're opening up to pivotal times for a lot of people. I think that there's a lot of divine power and a lot of divine light, which means that we're going to really be blessed moving forward. And, I've got my nonprofit. That's the logo behind me. We have a nonprofit for mental health awareness and education. So we're bringing that to a much bigger level because not enough people know about us. And then I've got my business. And last year, 2022, was my very first year of bringing my business to multiple 6 figures. And it was like, pinch me, it was just incredible. And it's like, how and where do I see this going? And I'm really currently spending time with that. We just went to Texas last week for my husband's 50th birthday. I was able to literally spoil him with a bucket list item. He wanted this Top Gun flight experience, and he got it. And so just sometimes stepping away from your daily, and I don't mean to call it mundane, because I think we're all serving on such a high level, but it's easy to get stuck when you're home as a solopreneur with, like you said, what do I do with my day? Where am I taking this thing? And it starts to close in around you. So in order to kind of like slow down to speed up, you got to take yourself out of that environment and fall in love again with your vision and let those creative juices flow. And that's literally where I'm sitting like this week.
I agree. And because you can lose the passion until you step away, and the passion, it can come back, especially when you see the results of your harvest,
Yes, that's it right there.
But
and then you get that like, yeah, let's do this.
Like, man, I got to go bigger.
That's right.
But since you said, I can't remember exactly what you said, but do you meditate?
I do.
Okay. And what I don't remember. I came up with it somehow. I was listening to I was thinking, in Think and Grow Rich,
Yeah.
he talks about meditating. And then also I was watching an interview or a documentary on Nikola Tesla. And Nikola Tesla, he talks about vibration and frequency.
Definitely. Yes.
Everybody has their own vibrational frequency, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think we're all a single, an individual part of one big piece. You know what I mean?
Makes sense.
So anyway, my point is, so when I meditate and I do my work, I think about what can I. Oh, also, do you know that on 9/11, the frequency of the world went low? It lowered.
I did not know that, and I don't doubt it, but damn, that just gave me chills.
I was listening to a interview with a guy that was on the space station, and they look at that kind of stuff, and they said as soon as it happened, and everybody started to find out, the vibration of the world, it lowered because everybody's in a sad state.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right, so that's what made me think that maybe we're all an individual piece of a collective consciousness. So when you work, the reason I say that, you work and you meditate, you think, what can I do to raise the frequency of the world? You know what I mean? As on my part.
Yes.
So if we all do our part to raise the frequency, that's why we do marketing, to get people to come along with us.
Yep.
Yeah.
I love that. That's so powerful. And it's so true. It's so true. Man. Yeah, I never looked at it like that, but it's like we're locking, arms and let's do this.
Yeah. So people that are watching this, if you want to follow along with Kim, I'm going to leave your, do you have a blog that you want to share?
Yeah, it's kimward.blog.
Oh, okay.
Super fancy, right?
And I'll leave a link to your Facebook too, because I know you're on there a lot.
Thank you. Yeah.
And well, that's about it. I really just wanted to come talk about email. I didn't know we were going to talk about so much more, but it's
I
great.
enjoyed our time together, and I hope someone got value out of it. And this was fun.
Yeah, me too. I agree. It's probably one of my favorite interviews I've done, and well, for one, because I was following you and I just had to have you on. But then we talked about so much more, and I think we're just going to have to keep in touch.
I think so too.
Well, thank you for coming on.
Thank you. It's my pleasure. Have a great night, Cody.
All right, you too.